this ordering of speech and then event says everything that happens is pre-thought through, pre-planned. God says, I'm going to do this, and then I'll do it. That repetition of that speech, event is just grinding into you. Whatever God says he's going to do, he's going to do it.
Welcome to this episode of the theFormed.life podcast. My name is Paul Brandis, and I'm the campus pastor at the Shawnee campus. Today, my co-host, Bill Gorman, and I are joined by Dr. Charles Yu, a Bible scholar who holds a PhD in Old Testament studies and also serves as a lead teaching pastor at Black Hawk Evangelical Free Church. Drawing on his unique background as both a scholar and a pastor, Dr. Yu helps us navigate the historical context of the ancient Near East to better understand the creation narrative that we find in our Bibles in Genesis. In this episode, we explore together how to reconcile that creation account in Genesis with modern science while remaining, of course, grounded in essential theological truths of Scripture. I can't wait for you to hear it. Let's dive right in.
Well, Dr. Yu, we're so excited to have you with us with your background as a biblical scholar as well as a lead teaching pastor. We're really excited to have you kind of help us navigate some of these topics today.
It's so good to be here.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us. And with your background, you're a Bible scholar, but particularly have done a lot of work in the Hebrew Bible and the Old Testament. Where do you like to begin when you're teaching a congregation about Genesis chapter 1 and sort of the historical and cultural context that we as modern readers sometimes miss and that we need to help understand those texts and their primary purpose?
Yeah, this is a great question. At Black Hawk Church, we have this phrase we often say. We say the Bible is not written to us, but for us.
Yes.
We actually stole that from Joe Malton. That we just actually flat out stole it from. Actually, no. As it is, Bible's written for us, not to us. So we flipped it. So I think it's now okay.
We love that phrase too.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
I like
exactly.
flipping it though. It is written for us, but it's not written in the first instance. It's not written to us.
It's before us. And we use that every time we teach the Bible, every time we teach a book. And it's usually it doesn't cause any problems. Everybody's like, oh, that makes sense. Until you get to Genesis chapter 1. And everybody's like, wait a minute. Because that phrase has implications. Right? It's like, whoa, the starting point is not the questions we have about creation, about Genesis 1. The starting point is, what is the original author doing with the original readers?
Yes.
And that's the question we always ask. We're like, hey, when you read Genesis 1, how would an ancient Israelite read this? And it and it really depends on the context. If you're talking about, hey, I'm still of the mind that, I think so. Bible doesn't say it, doesn't claim authorship. And a lot of people are like, did Moses really write this? I still think it's very likely that Moses wrote Genesis chapter 1. I think that he, bringing people out of Egypt, he would not have left them without a creation account. Because the creation account is going to tell them who they are. It's identity formation. This is like, who is your God? Who are you? Kinds of stuff. Yeah. And so I think very likely that he wrote a Genesis 1 to tell them exactly who their God is and why the Egyptian God sucks, because he's, basically created on day 4, and it's really there to serve our purposes, to serve our calendaring purposes. So, it's very much like it's like kind of a religious polemic, kind of a religious
and what you're saying there is that the Egyptian gods are like the sun, the moon, the stars.
Yes. The main Egyptian deity is like Re, right? It's like the sun god is like one of the primary. It's like during certain periods of Egyptian history, the primary god in the Egyptian pantheon. And so imagine if you're an Israelite sitting in, say, Mount Sinai, and Moses is like, "Hey, I'm going to read you guys this thing I just wrote." And they get to day 1, they're like, "Okay, we have day and night, but no sun. That's kind of weird." And with day 2, we have evening, morning, no sun. Day 3, no sun. Day 4, the sun shows up. And they're like, whoa. I mean, imagine Israelites growing up in Egypt, being inundated with Egyptian religious worldview and understanding, and then coming out here and hearing that the Egyptian God's nothing. He's a plaything for our God.
Wow.
I mean, it's a complete transformation. I mean, that's how Genesis 1 is supposed to hit.
Yeah.
It's a powerful, powerful chapter that is supposed to sock you, not up here, but really in the gut. It's like, whoa, our God's the greatest God ever. And the rest of those things are not even gods that other people worship. They're worshiping nothing. And we're the people of this God.
Wow.
I mean, it's a complete transformation.
Yeah.
So when we try to read Genesis 1, I tell people, I say, hey, you reading Genesis 1, if your reaction isn't in your face Egyptians, you're not reading Genesis 1 properly. You should be like, yeah, our God rocks, their God sucks. That's kind of the reaction we're looking for. So
Yeah. Wow.
we try to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and for many modern Christians, right, and you even referenced this, that we may be asking some different questions than original readers. So a lot of those are sort of the modern scientific consensus on the age of the earth, or there's a lot of discussion. Maybe I was in my middle or high school biology class and I learned about biological evolution. And so we're bringing a lot of those frameworks, a lot of those questions to this text. And I think what I hear you saying is Moses and the original readers, they were not approaching it with that same lens. Christians have fought over Genesis 1. So help us with some of those dynamics a little bit.
That's a great question. So first of all, our church is part of the EFCA. I'm a pastor at the EFCA church. Our statement of faith says we believe the Bible is without error. So I am an inerrantist. I believe, but what I love about the EFCA statement of faith, I'm sorry, I'm promoting EFCA quite a bit here.
We're an EFCA church, so we're all about it.
Yes,
exactly.
We're right with you.
I'm just trying to figure your audience are the EFCA now, but if they're not, they should think about it, because
That's
the
right.
EFCA statement of faith talks about how the Bible is without error in all that it teaches.
Yes.
Which is not without error in everything, but everything that's actually teaching. And so for me, like, okay, I believe the Bible is without error. But the problem is the way we interpret the Bible is full of errors, because we're full of errors.
Right.
But just because the Bible's inerrant does not mean that our interpretations are inerrant. And so it's really the question we're always asking is, what is Genesis 1 actually teaching? And if we can have a consistent hermeneutic, a consistent way of going, okay, here's an entire narrative within Genesis 1. What part of it do we go, that's actually true outside the story? That's actually what the Bible is trying to tell us. We should affirm that in our beliefs. If we can figure that out, that would be a very helpful conversation. So how do we have that conversation? And we because you looking going through history, people have done a lot with Genesis 1 in making it and connecting it to different scientific theories and such. And it causes perceived tension, right? It used to be, I think the Bible is associated with a static universe. Like everything's created, everything's staying the same. And now we're like, no, there's actually change. There's Big Bang. There's all this. And all of a sudden we have to throw that out. As we have done those kind of things, we're trying to read modern science into Genesis 1, and then suddenly contemporary science consensus changes. Well, now we're kind of stuck. And we have to go, okay, we have to redo this again. Whereas I'm much rather of the mind that the Bible doesn't address modern science. It's simply not interested in it. What it's interested is, who is our God? What is his relationship to creation? He is the creator God. The Genesis 1 passages are, God says that he does it, which means it's talking about God's planning, the structure, orderly. God is somebody who designs intelligently. I'm not using the word intelligent design. God designs intelligently. God is purposeful, and the creation is culminating in the creation of humanity. I think those are the things that we're learning from Genesis 1, and it's almost irrelevant what the latest scientific theories about how the universe comes about. That's almost irrelevant.
So if you were sitting down with your Blackhawk is in Madison, Wisconsin, UW-Madison, massive college institution there. You have a lot of college students at your church, I know. Someone who is studying evolutionary biology or geology, one of these subjects where you're really sort of getting into, age of the earth or, like how life forms develop and change, and they're just like, okay, like how do I reconcile what I'm reading in my textbooks and my classes with these professors who are really bright and smart and intelligent,
Yeah. Yeah.
with this faith that I'm exploring, or this faith that I've had, kind of with that idea. I mean, maybe you kind of said it a little bit, but maybe just like model that conversation, like with those kind of principles that you were just naming of what's true of Genesis 1, and then how they might then still
Yeah.
interact with what they're learning in their classes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So first of all, this is not a hypothetical. We have students coming in all the time. We used to do something called Science and Faith once every 3-4 years. We haven't done it since COVID. But we invite like Christian scientists who are Christian, not Christian scientists, scientists who are Christian, and we get to talk about their work. We have professors on the UW campus. See, this is important because sometimes it's like very rational arguments. Sometimes you just need full on, you're a professor in cell biology and you're on stage talking about your faith in Jesus and your faith in the authority of Scripture. A lot of it is just modeling that. Like,
that's right.
Oh, they can do this. And we have professors who are Christians and they're talking about their faith. And what we then do is say, hey, listen up. This is not a conflict. Okay. If you read the Bible a very particular way, it will cause a conflict. But the way we're reading it, look, we're reading it through the original audience, original reader. That approach does not cause conflict. And we briefly explain it the way we do. In fact, what I like to do is walk people through Genesis 1. I like to draw Genesis 1. Right? I would say, okay, now water. Now in the middle now is a vault or a firmament, rakia. So now it's blocking the water above and the water below. Now, think about that. Why do you think there's water above? And I have conversations with young people. They're like, wait, water above? Like, is that where rain comes from? That's exactly it. The ancient people believe the rain is stuck above the rakia. There's a solid thing that's blocking water from above. Well, then how does it rain? Well, there's windows you have to open to let rain come down. This is part of the cosmology of the ancient people, right? The ancient people believe that there's this thing blocking water, and then we live down here, and the water opens up in this dry ground. This is the entirety of the world. And then when you point them to the day 4, where the sun, moon, and the stars is actually placed in the rakia, in this firmament.
Yeah.
The moment you say that, you go, okay, we are not talking anything about modern conception of our world. There's no conflict because we're really talking about completely different things. All Moses is doing, or whoever the author is they're saying, hey, however you understand our world, and in the ancient world, it's a 3-level world. You have the sky or the firmament, something above, things below, and things underneath. We have this multi-tier universe. Whatever you understand it, however you understand it, the author is saying, God made it. God made it in an intentional way, in an orderly way, for the sake of providing space for humans to flourish. That's Genesis 1.
Yeah.
I mean, if God's writing Genesis 1 today, he would write a very different Genesis 1.
Yeah, that's fascinating, because he'd be addressing people who have been to the moon, have taken a picture of the Earth from outer space.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Bingo. He would have to talk about the universe. He would have to talk about the constellations.
Yeah.
He would have to talk about the millions, billions and billions upon the different universes and galaxies that are out there. Right? He would have to talk. So Genesis 1 today would, if it was written today, would sound very different. It's going to take on however we understand the world, and then God made it. And so, and then in Genesis 1 is, if somebody writes Genesis 1 or God writes Genesis 1, 2,000 years from now, it's going to be entirely different again. Because it's based on how people view their world at the time of writing. And so if I talk to a student, I said, look, you're facing this challenge and you're learning really good stuff at your university. And some of your professors are actually Christians. You may not even know that. Okay. So, but it's okay. The conflict is only perceived. Only through particular kind of reading. There's actually no conflict here.
So what are maybe a few more, because I'm hearing you, one, like sort of timeless theological reality that Genesis 1 communicated then, and we would say would absolutely communicate if it was written today, is that God, the God of the Bible, Yahweh, is the one who made all this, who created all this. What are some others that we could extract from Genesis 1 that if you picked that up and wrote it again today, actually the text of it would look different because it's addressing our questions a little more directly, but the timeless theological realities would be the same. What are a few more of those?
Yeah, so this is what I love to do, because I feel like so much time when I teach Genesis 1, I'm playing defense. I'm trying to deal with all the questions rather than, do you want to know what Genesis 1 actually teach?
That's why I asked. I was curious. I'm excited to hear.
So one of the key thing is about Genesis is that, I talk about when you read Genesis 1, it assumes certain things, assumes certain scientific paradigm. What is assumed is not being taught. So the question then is, what is being taught?
I just want to pause there. I want to say that again really quick. What is assumed is not being taught.
Yes.
That's really important.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. It assumes a future universe that the ancient Israelites understood.
Yeah.
Because Moses isn't trying to teach how God created the universe. That's not the goal. Right? The goal is to actually teach them God created the universe, why he did it. That's the key.
Yeah.
So that you understand who they are. So he's not going to mess with, oh, by the way, the sun's in the center of the universe, in galaxy, it's a heliocentric solar system, and there's multiple. He's just not going to go there. There's no point. All right. So the things he does teach are fascinating. If you look at the 6 days of creation, because first of all, wow, the thing that strikes you with, it's so structured.
Mm-hmm.
It's every day has so much repetition. Right, it always ends with there's evening, there's morning, day 1, day 2. It's like, okay, we have these nice little units created, and then each one begins with God saying something, and then something happening. This ordering of speech and then event says everything that happens is pre-thought through, pre-planned. God says, I'm going to do this, and then I'll do it. That repetition of that speech, event is just grinding into you. Whatever God says he's going to do, he's going to do it.
Wow. His faithfulness, his reliability.
Universal.
Yeah.
Right? So we're learning a personal God who is sovereign, powerful over creation right then. Right? And but then you look at the next verb that shows up. The next verb is not let there be. He said he saw that something is good.
Yeah.
And he separates. He does that multiple times, right? He's an evaluator. He has opinions. He has moral judgments. What is good in this situation, Genesis 1, is actually what's good for human life. Light is good, darkness is not. So let's separate those two things. And so God does that. And then he names things.
Wow.
Asserting authority. Naming the ancient world is about assertion of authority. Well, I don't know. I mean, contemporary examples would be when the Soviet Union they changed the name from St. Petersburg to Leningrad.
Yeah.
And then after the fall of the Soviet Union, they changed it back to St. Petersburg. Right? It's like whoever is in charge gets to name things. People rename cities. People rename airports. It's always an assertion of authority.
Yes.
The naming that's going on in Genesis 1, God's like, I'm the emperor of the universe.
Yeah.
And the underlying message that we don't pick up is all the things that he's creating and naming and assessing, those are all seen as gods in the ancient world.
Yeah.
And just like, I am stomping all over you. I am just stomping all over you. It's a boss move. Okay. I named this. Wow. And I call you this name. And I get to assess this is good and you're not good, all the kind of stuff that's happening.
Wow.
And so we see that. And I know, I think the framework hypothesis that people may have heard of, right? The orderliness of the 6 days of creation. Day 1, day and night created. Day 2, water above, sky, water below, and then day 3, dry land and sea. And then day 4, 5, and 6. 1, 2, 3 creates the structure, the spaces, the categories. And then 4, 5, and 6 creates the fill. Day 4 is sun and moon and stars, which goes into the day and night. Day 5, birds go into the sky, fish go to the water below, and then day 6, the animals and humans going into the dry land.
Yeah.
There's this perfect structure created in the order of the 6 days. Once again, structured orderliness, but really the focus is on the humans at the very end.
Yes.
Right? The culmination
That's
of
right.
God's creation. I think if you want to talk to a student and they say, hey, what can I believe about all the stuff I'm learning, say about evolution, I would say, hey, the Bible doesn't talk about evolution. It doesn't negate evolution. It's about one thing. If you're learning from evolution that this whole thing is random, is by chance, that goes against Genesis 1. Okay, naturalistic evolution directly conflicts with Genesis 1.
Yeah.
Because it's not by chance.
Yeah.
And we're not here by accident. We're
Come on.
the culmination of God's creation to image God.
Yeah. When I worked with middle schoolers and would teach Genesis 1, the metaphor I would use is we're the cherry on top of God's ice cream sundae. It's like that idea of sort of the thing it's like the culminating sort of thing.
Yeah.
You're just like that pop of color, brings it all together.
Brings it all
Anyway.
together. And the amazing thing is I don't think we hear this enough. We are to image God isn't somehow, because I know when people, we're all images of God, we all have value and dignity. Yes, but that's only one aspect of
Yes.
the other aspect is you represent God. To be an image is to actually carry God's life and authority in you into the world. Hence, it's directly connected to rulership. You're supposed to rule over.
That's
rule
right.
over this created world.
Our job description comes next.
Yes,
is what. Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely. So.
Yes.
Well, and actually, I wonder, so we've been you've beautifully laid out that framework of kind of the forming of these categories and then the filling of these spaces. What are some ways, because I think one of the places as contemporary modern readers, we read day and we think, okay, this is, and obviously our 7-day week that we inhabit is based off that. Actually, one of those, this is a quick aside, it's one of those, I love the 7-day week being this thing that isn't directly tied to an astrological phenomenon, right? Like our months are based on the moon, this year, the sun, but the 7 days of our ordering of our week is right out of Genesis 1. That's just a side note about the power of that narrative in culture across the world. But we tend to think a day is 24 hours. And so, if you just hand a Bible to your 7-year-old and say, read this, and they read, it's like, this happened on Monday, and this happened on Tuesday, and this happened on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, go on through. It's understandable that that's just that's on first blush. It's just like, that's, again, we're bringing our categories and our framework to that. But what are some ways that people have understood those days? How should we think about those days? The question is, like, are those literal 24-hour periods? Are these representative of long ages or epochs, or is there something else happening? We were kind of getting there a little bit, but I wanted to kind of name that explicitly, because I think that is another place where people get kind of hung up.
I totally understand the drive to take Genesis 1 and connect it with modern understanding of science. For example, the idea of each day representing some kind of an era, the epoch in archaeological history. There's people who think that way about kind of old earth creationism. And then there's some people that go, I want to respect biblical authority by saying, hey, it says a day, it means 24 hours. There are also people who first of all, respect this so much. And we need to understand, this is not criticism. There are people who are like, the Bible's authoritative. I love the Bible. And the way we respect it and honor it is to read it as literally as possible. And I've heard that many times from people, like, I want to read things literally, because this is God's word. And so when they look at the word day, they go, what's got to be 24 hours? So the creation must have happened in 6 24-hour periods. And I'm like, yes, first of all, I respect that perspective, that view, first of all, does not conflict with the Bible. I just want to make that very clear. It conflicts with science, but it does not conflict with the Bible. So what I tell people is, you as a Christ follower, as a Bible-believing Christian, you can absolutely hold a young earth creationist view. It is consistent. Okay, you can do it. You're just going to have a lot of problem with science,
right,
and so forth. But what I do say to people is, that view is not required by the Bible.
It's good language. Yeah,
that's a good way to put it. The Bible, you can read it as 6 literal 24 hours days. You don't have to. What you can do is read each day as some kind of an organizational unit within the story. Now, somebody's going to come along and go, well, why are you doing that? I mean, shouldn't we be reading it literally? And I would respond by saying, hey, if you're going to read the day literally as 24-hour days, can you give me a hermeneutic? Can you give me a consistent way of reading? Because I don't see you doing that with other details in the story. You're picking on just yom, what Hebrew for day. You're picking that as that's 24 hours. That must be something we take literally. So my first question is, does God actually speak Hebrew when he created the world? Because it says, he said, Yahi or, let there be light. Did God speak into this void and just this big noise, Yahi or? Is that literally what's happening? Or is that just kind of like a way to communicate planning and an event, right? God planned it and it happens, right? Is it theological or are you going to go literal on that? And I would have a conversation with this person.
Yeah.
Like, why are you picking that one particular detail? Because I'm guessing that but the person who does this is doing it only on that one detail and not on the other ones. Going back to sun being created on day 4, before there were, after the trees were created. Trees are before the sun. How does that work? Right? The earth before the sun. How does that work? Are you really going to embrace all those details? And if you are, that's fine. You're being consistent. That's fine. God spoke Hebrew. He said Yahi or, and there was light. What kind of a light? Not sure. But there's day, evening, and day and night. No sun. Is there a planet? We're just going to stay away from all those kind of questions.
Right.
So I guess I would just, when I talk to people, and when I say is, okay, I understand you're pulling that detail out of the story and saying that has to be literally true. And I'm wondering about all the other details. I would say that Genesis 1 precludes naturalistic evolution. It really precludes any kind of naturalistic explanation of the origin of the universe. So when I say naturalistic, I mean it completely is mechanistic. There's no agency. There's no God transcending, making it happen. Genesis 1 says God made this.
Yes. In the beginning, God. That's the first line, right?
God made this thing, and he made it happen. He is not part of the creation. He transcends it.
That's right.
That's just clearly there. And so if in any kind of understanding of Genesis 1 that fits that, we're good. So naturalistic explanations conflicts with Genesis 1. The others don't, but they're varying in degrees of conflict with modern science. So we go back to 6-day creation. That's very challenging, especially 6-day and young Earth, because they take 6-day and young Earth are not necessarily connected. You can have 6-day and old Earth, actually.
Sure.
But right, in theory, but because the young Earth comes from taking the genealogies and the years, taking that literally, and that's not part of Genesis 1.
Yes.
But you can have 6-day creation old Earth, you can have 6-day creation young Earth, and then you can have old Earth creationism in which the days are eras in human history. But I've never found. Okay, so once again, when we start doing those kind of things, I look at them going, I don't know if the ancient Israelites would have read it that way.
Yeah.
It's like pretty sure they wouldn't have.
Any of these might kind of not, I was going to say fail the test of the original readership. That may be overstating it, but it just is not going to be, it's still in some level is approaching the text with more of the questions that we have versus the questions that they have. Is that a fair?
That's a fair. We can't help ourselves.
Yes,
yes. When we read the Bible, we want the Bible to answer our questions.
Yeah.
And it's hard because this is a kind of a general rule. God wants to ask us questions. And the book of Genesis isn't by itself. It's part of a multi-volume saga.
That's right.
It runs from Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Samuel, Kings. It's one collection. Somebody pulled it together. Because if you read it, it's like one continuous story. There was editorial work done to pull all together in the time of Babylonian exile. So academics call it primary history, Genesis to 2 Kings, one collection. So the question you have to ask is, why does this story begin with the creation of the world and end with Israel in exile?
Yeah.
What a strange story.
Wow.
And so once you start thinking along those terms, you realize, okay, wait. What is primary history really about? Well, primary history, really quickly, God creates the world, put humans in charge, humans rebel, humans mess up the world. And starting in Genesis chapter 12, God says, I'm going to create a solution to the problem. I'm going to start with Abraham and create the kingdom of ancient Israel. And I'm going to, and the people, they grow numerous. They come back from Egypt. They have a land. And then they rebel again in the book of Judges. And then in Samuel and Kings, God says, I need to give you leaders. I need to give you kings to help you do the job you're supposed to do. And then the kings lead the people into rebellion. And God says, okay, you're all going away. So that's kind of a very brief summary of the plot of the primary history. Now you go to a people in Babylon. These are Israelites in Babylon. And they're like, how do we get here? Who are we? Should we stay? Should we keep our culture? Or should we become Babylonians? And so the Israeli rabbis, they took their old writing and they stuck it together and created this story. They go, here, read this. This tells you who you are and how you got here. And it has to begin with the creation of the world, because it starts with your God is the creator God of the universe.
Yes.
And this God has this amazing plan and wants people to participate with him in making this amazing world. And the humans rebelled. And so he chose a people. That's us, the Jews in Babylon. That's us. He created us. And he says, you're supposed to play this amazing role in the redemption of the world. But then we kept rebelling and we failed. And now here we are in Babylon. We've been kicked out. But there is a bit of hope. And so the question that's being asked is, at least to the ancient Israelites in Babylon, do you want to stick with us?
Yeah.
Do you want to stick with us? Do you have hope in this God to get you out of Babylon and restart this process? And it's going to give you a new covenant, a circumcision of the heart where you actually are going to obey God this time. We're going to have a transformation so that you can now keep the Torah from the inside out and live out the calling you're supposed to live out. That's the question that the story is asking. Do you want to be part of this?
Yeah.
Or do you want to give up and become Babylonian?
Wow. Which is a really powerful question for us in this moment.
I was just reflecting on
that. Yeah. I mean, in any moment. But I mean, you think about when you begin to understand that story in that way, it's that's asking each culture, each generation, that question afresh of, do you want to be a part of the story? Do you want to stick with the story? Or do you want to go with whatever the predominant culture you're a part of?
Yes, it's exactly the same question, except for us is we gain a little bit more. We get the final chapter, which is God said, I have acted. I give it a new covenant. I'm going to unite you into Jesus. I'm going to give you the Holy Spirit. I'm going to help you do the thing that you could do before, where you join in. Oh, by the way, I'm going to invite the whole world into this, not just the children of Abraham, not just the physical children of Abraham. I'm going to open it up to Gentiles. I'm going to open it up to the whole world.
Yeah.
And now the question then is to everybody in the world, when you read it, do you want to be part of this?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's powerful.
I want to step back just a minute to something we were talking about earlier, because I do think I didn't have this in my mind as we were coming into this conversation, but I do think it's an important thing to address. And it was this idea of, the young earth view isn't really in Genesis 1. You were pointing out, you could have a literal 7 days, that view, and have a very old earth, because you could say, well, this could have happened 1 billion years ago, these literal 6 days, or 5 billion years ago, or 100,000 years ago that God did this in 6 days. The young earth really comes when you keep reading Genesis and you get into 5 through 10, you start getting these genealogies of the ages of people, and you add this up and you say, okay, if we trace these genealogies, you only get, 7,000 years or whatever,
like that.
Whatever it is. So again, how would you help someone? Because again, it's the same impulse, which is a noble and valuable, and the impulse we ought to have is I want to read my Bible and believe what it says. And it looks like these unbroken genealogies, and you add up the numbers, and I want to take these numbers literally, and I get whatever these the 7,000 years. And so if I really want to trust my Bible, I got to say it's only this old, no matter what science says. So how would you help someone maybe read those genealogies or understand those genealogies in a way? Because we were saying Genesis, 1 allows you to hold a young earth position, but it doesn't demand it. It doesn't require it. But I think those who would really hold that staunchly would say, but yeah, these genealogies really push us there if we're going to take our Bible seriously.
Right. No, that's a great question. And once again, when we start reading the Bible, I'm an inerrantist. The Bible is without error in all that it teaches.
Mm-hmm.
The question we're always struggling with is, what is it teaching and what is it not teaching? And what I think it's important is this posture of humility is critical. Because I look at the ancient texts like the genealogy, and I have all kinds of questions. Like, what is the function in the story of it?
Yep. Over and over.
There's theology in this.
That's right.
They're reading it and they're getting something. And what are they getting? Are they trying to, whoever wrote it, Genesis 1, whoever wrote the book of Genesis, was the author trying to communicate the number of years? Is that the point of the genealogies? And this is where I first kind of go, I am not certain of that. In fact, I'm a little less than certain of that, especially because how much numerology goes on in the Bible. Okay, I'm just kind of pause right there. But today, when we talk about numbers, we have Arabic numerals. So our numbers we have Arabic numerals, like 1 is like, written 1, 2 is written 2. But we also have 2 as in TWO, we spell it out. So the ancient Israelites, when they do numbers and they don't have the Arabic numerals yet, and they don't have the Roman numerals yet. So what they really do is to simply use the alphabet. So the first alphabet in the Hebrew language is Aleph, and it has a value of 1. And Beit has 2. Gimel has 3, Dalet has 4, Vav has, that's just going down the line. Once you hit 10, and then 20, 30, 40, and so on down the line. So every single word in Hebrew has a number associated with it. Yeah.
By adding the number of values of the letters. Yeah.
Exactly. So when I look at numerology, I'm going, oh, wow, there are things going on here. The numbers could be meaning words, which can be meaning numbers. For example, the book of Matthew, right? Begins with the genealogy of Jesus and his 14th generation before the exile, from Abraham to David, David to the exile to Jesus. That's 14 thing. 14, David, Dalet, Vav, Dalet. Right? That's 4, 5, 4. That's actually, so not 14, sorry. I'm adding wrong. 13, right. It actually adds up to David. Jesus' genealogy adds up to David. And so, wow, I'm being math today. It's 454 is actually 13.
Yeah, and I think another thing that I've often found helpful in thinking about numbers in the Bible too is the difference between precision and accuracy, like that distinction as well. And we have a different level of kind of journalistic precision, even in reading narratives, and as opposed to rounding, or that something can be accurate without being precise. And we tend to bring a level of precision that we have in our cultural context that is built on calculators and spreadsheets, and we have a very high precision value, but something can be accurate even if it's not precise in the same standards that we would maybe want in our cultural moment.
Right. Exactly. And that's the other thing that actually gets mentioned in our EFC Statement of Faith, the Evangelical Convictions, the book. It talks about precision.
Yeah.
Exactly. I often ask people, hey, if I ask you how much money you make and you said I make, $40,000 a year, and you actually made $40,000 and $40,500, $40,500. You're under by 500.
Mm-hmm.
Did you lie?
Right.
What depends, right? The context. If I just say, hey, how much you make? You're like, oh, I make about 40K a year. You didn't lie. You were rounding down. Yeah. But if if I'm an IRS agent,
there you go.
Right.
Yeah.
So
it's a good illustration.
Determines the precision level.
Right.
The genre of the communication determine precision level. But we all know people like, oh yeah, hey, I'm telling a story. Oh, last Wednesday I did this, and and somebody comes like, oh, it wasn't last Wednesday, it was last Thursday. It's like, okay, dude, relax. I'm telling a story. You don't have to be that precise.
Sometime in the recent past.
Right, exactly, right? So the way we talk, the way we do context really provides precision level is dependent on the purpose of communication. And once
really
again,
helpful.
if we're trying to read Genesis or really reading the Bible at a precision level that says, hey, we want absolute precision on every number, everything, I think we're demanding from the Bible something that the Bible was never intended to provide.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, and that's so helpful. And I just, as I think about us wrapping up here, this has been such a helpful conversation, but there are a lot of different interpretations. There is a variety of views, and I just am aware, I'm sure we've all experienced that, unfortunately, this exact conversation, different ways to read Genesis 1 have, in the history of the church and continuing today, have too often led to division. And so what encouragement would you have to our listeners? How do you navigate that reality? And just, what encouragement would you have for people to still remain charitable and humble and just in dialogue with fellow Christians who might have a different view on all of this?
When we do the statement, when we do the Science of Faith event back in the days, we would have two talks that are kind of like standard. We always begin with those two talks, and then after that, we invite a bunch of scientists to come up and talk about different things. But the standard two talks are these. One is a talk on Genesis 1. The one I would do would explain how ancient readers read Genesis 1. And then we would have somebody go up and do a talk which surveys the different readings and talk about how all of them are possible except the naturalistic evolution.
Mm-hmm.
And we really emphasize that. Like, hey, we're within the broad framework of God created everything. God is the source of it all. And so within that, we can have disagreements, and that's okay. I think it's like and I know that people are going to go, no. Genesis 1, reading it properly requires a young earth 6-day creations reading. And what I hope is, by looking at the way we do hermeneutics, the way we talk about Bibles that have been to us before us, they might soften that position a little bit. What we're hoping is like, hey, we're preaching God is the creator of all. Humans are created for his purposes. And that may soften their position a little bit. It may not. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to affirm that their position does not conflict with the Bible. And that, by all means, if you want to believe that, go right ahead. But I also want to point out that we, as church in a university town, we have a lot of college students who come from traditions where they've been taught that if you lose young earth creationism, 6-day creationism, you lose your faith. And they come to a place like UW, and they are struggling. And they feel like, I need to give them my faith. And I'm like, no, you don't.
Yeah. Wow.
And this is where compassion for people who struggle deeply about this. We want to show people, love for others. And we can agree to disagree on something like this. But man, there are people who need this.
Yeah.
It's great. Thank you.
Well, Dr. Yu, this has been so helpful, and I think exactly what I was hoping we'd be able to do in this conversation. So thank you so much. And as we wrap up, we always like to ask our guests a final question, just to kind of get to know you a little bit better outside of the main kind of conversation we've been having, and that is, if you were able to do something other than the amazing work you're doing as a scholar, as a pastor there in Madison at Blackhawk, you could just go do an entirely different career. What would you do? I always say I'd love to be a national park ranger
Really?
somewhere. Okay. Yeah, I'd love to just go out and show people the wilderness.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it depends on what like when I was growing up, I wanted to pitch for the Dodgers, but I was 10.
Are you still a Dodgers fan? Because if so, congratulations are in order for the World Series.
Thank you. Let's not talk about it too much. We Dodger fans don't want to like, because I feel bad because, we spend more money than anybody else.
That's
So
right.
it's like, yeah, you're kind of supposed to win.
Yeah,
But I don't
that's
really
right.
want to talk about it. And
It was a
also,
great World Series, though.
I'm in Madison. A lot of, Brewers fans, they're still kind of ticked about the whole thing. So
Yeah, that's right. That's
I
right.
don't want to make a thing of it
That's
at
right.
all. I don't like wear Dodgers hat or anything like that around church.
Yeah.
But for me, there are things there's some commonalities. When I read the Bible as a story, I see the power of the drama. And one of the things I really enjoy doing is to see the same story, gospel story in secular storytelling. So I would love to be some kind of a movie review from like understanding theology in secular movies.
Wow.
And help people understand and go, here, you see the gospel story there, you see how this is connected.
Yeah.
I would like to do movie reviews.
That's
Just
awesome.
maybe do a podcast and do movie reviews.
That's
I don't think you get paid for that, but
Well, you get a big enough
it would
audience.
be a great job. So
That's a great
I get to watch
answer.
movies
We-
and talk about it.
That's awesome. We
Yeah.
love asking that question. And we've always gotten a different, amazing answer from our guests.
Yeah.
So it's been a fruitful get to know you question. But thank you so much again, Dr. Yu, for taking the time with us. And listeners, thank you for jumping on and tuning into this episode. We've mentioned a few resources that you can find in the show notes. And thank you for joining us again on this episode of the Formed.life podcast.